Hey guys, welcome to TGS. Today we got a comparison a lot of you have asked for. We are going to do this, the Browning 725 ProSport versus this, the Beretta 694. So let's just do a little visual and dimensional overview before we get into any of the, romantic mumbo jumbo about both of these. Starting at the back, the Beretta has the full interchangeable pad system. That is a real boon to this gun. On this one, all you do is get 2 Pachmeyer pads, which is nice, and it does mean you can get a little bit of extra space, but you do not have the variety and variability that you would do if it was built off the standard system. Not that you can't retrofit or fit the standard system, but it just seems a little bit silly. In terms of actual depth at the back of the stock, the Beretta has it by 1/4 inch. Not massive, so actually in terms of stock depth they are very similar. You would have noticed this is an adjustable ProSport, because most of them are obviously, and this is a non-adjustable 694. Both the wood grades are comparable. This is American walnut, this is Circassian walnut. They are very comparable wood grades. The Brownings generally will come in a redder hue, but that's just because where they get their walnut, and the Berettas will come in that sort of lighter brown hue. That's a personal preference thing more than anything, really. The finishes are kind of equivalent. The Beretta is slightly more satin, and the Browning has a bit more of a shine to it. Adjustable 694s, by to finish what I was saying earlier, will become available, but we haven't seen them yet. Beretta are great ones for rolling stuff out slowly, and to be fair, they produce a lot of guns, so producing a Beretta 694 adjustable probably isn't the top of their priorities list. Apart from the fact it's deeper at the back, actually the Beretta is slimmer throughout thereafter, so you'll notice a lot more taper with the Beretta, and as such the ProSport does look a little bit more parallel and a little bit more clunky perhaps. Bigger, meatier, let's not call that a bad thing, it's just the way it is. In fact, it is a centimetre deeper here at the top of the hand there, just at the nose of the comb, than this is, and that will give it a lot more weight in the stock potentially. Not that balance makes a modicum of difference on these guns, because they come with full balancing kits or have full balancing kits available, so you can add as much weight to the back or front as you like. So these are infinitely personalizable. The grip is where we really start to see the first big difference. The ProSport grip is a full 1.5 centimetres longer and rounder. You notice it kicks back and comes down to a parallel a lot quicker, and that will give you a much more upright, forced hand position. You also have a very large cutout there, and where you've got quite a thick blade of the stock by comparison to the Beretta, as you can see, it needs that cutout. In fact, the pass well is just fuller because of that. You might like that, you might not. This does make this gun less versatile than the 694 that has, although a very full pistol grip, and quite a commanding pistol grip, it's not as deep and it's not as dense, so you can move your hand around and really kind of work this gun a little bit better, perhaps. However, it could lead to inconsistencies in grip, potentially. Checkering is another big difference. So the Browning is hand checkered and the Beretta is laser checkered. So there's 2 aspects to this. Firstly, the Browning ergo is sharper. The second is that it is kind of romantic. But it will leave you with slight imperfections. You've got slight imperfections with join lines. Some lines aren't particularly perfect, but that is just what Brownings do. When you get that hand finishing, you also come with hand issues. It is a slightly tighter teeth per inch, or lines per inch, than the Beretta as well. Not that makes a huge difference, but I think one of the things I'd do if I owned one of these would be to take some wire wool, just take those tops off, because it is very coarse. Hey, what are you going to do? Personal preference, some people will really like that. It's just an interesting one where they've got such grippy checkering and such a full pistol grip. It really does force your hand into one place. You cannot move around. And, well, that's a personal preference thing. I do find it's clear that this is designed to be more versatile in grip, and this is designed to be very much the way it is supposed to be. Action-wise, or head of the stock-wise, wood-to-metal fit on both of them is superior to the others that they'd have in their ranges, and both of them have a much nicer stock design that sort of blends with the lines of the gun. That's going to be a personal preference, whether you like the black action, whether you prefer the silver, whether you like these sort of raised sides here, whether you like the fluid line that this gives you. Both of these guns have gone for a minimalistic top, so both get rounded off very quick, and with the 694 you have the little scallops. So both provide a very, very clean line of sight, a very slim line of sight with a taper down into the gun. I would say perhaps that the Browning has it slightly, just the way it sheds light, but that's... I don't know, actually I really like the 694 as well. They're just very different. They're very different, but very similar at the same time. In terms of internal mechanism, actually before we go that, in terms of trigger, both triggers are adjustable and interchangeable for other types of trigger, so that you can change it up. So again, that's changeable, so there's no need to sort of like one or not like one, or you know the score. Foreends. The Browning forend, again, is much more substantial. It's that sort of beaver tail, but not huge fat beaver tail forend that does hold the hand lovely. And I'm a big fan of this kind of forend, but I'm also a fan of these kind of lower profile American style rounded forend. More versatile again, more restricted in its use, but again, that will add so much more repeatability that is not a bad thing when I say it's going to be restricting in its use. There is a lot more checkering on the Beretta forend, which you may or may not like. I think there's perhaps a little bit too much checkering on that Beretta forend, and I would be tempted to remove bits just so you have points of memory there. Barrel tech and choking, both pattern pretty well, or very well. I don't really feel like one is going to be better than the other, although I'm sure somebody will give an option there. I do like the fact that the ProSport comes with the interchangeable half-hour optics, so you can either change that colour or take it off and throw it away and put something else a little bit less obtuse on there. Overall, all right, and this is a very wide generalization, the ProSport is going to be for those of you who just shoot clays, perhaps shoot trap, and are very, very much calculated in the way you shoot a gun. You go into a stand and have a plan. A 694 is a more versatile gun, I think. I think it's clearly a more versatile gun. Even in design, it's designed much sleeker. This Browning is much more a big chunky statement, even though sort of handling wise, they're not dissimilar. Obviously the ProSport is heavier, significantly heavier, but hey, I could chuck in the whole Browning man, Beretta man bit, but in reality, both of them are so different from things they produced in the recent past that I would be swayed out of a Browning camp or a Beretta camp into either of those, because they are both beautiful things. So there you go, the ProSport for the dedicated calculated clay shooter, and the 694 for somebody who wants a gun that can be shot with a little bit more instinct and perhaps with a larger dose of luck. Both guns rate retail in that sort of $3,500 mark, so there's not really much money between them, or not enough money between them to worry. And there you have it. There is other options out there. If you want a larger, heavier gun with a full pistol grip, just like that TGS gun, that could be like £1,000 less. But it would be rude to compare it because, you know, it's Turkish, isn't it? And ergo must be rubbish. But on that note, you can buy other guns in these sort of specs, and if you want a gun like this, but perhaps aren't in that $3,500 price bracket, don't be scared. You could, for example, buy a Yieldits Pro Trap that's spec'd very, very similarly to both of these guns, or spec a Yieldits Pro Trap very similarly to both of these guns, or ProSport similarly to both of these guns, with a full pistol grip and all the works for under £2,000. And there is a lot to be said for that. Perhaps if you're testing the water of a bigger, heavier, chunkier gun, that's not a bad way to go, or a Mark 38 Maruku. But seeing as neither of those are top of the range guns, nobody's going to want to buy them quite as relatively as these. Not as fashionable, not as cool. Guys, have an absolutely great time. I can thoroughly recommend both these guns. I think they both shoot very well, but they are, although they compete in a similar market, extremely, extremely different, but kind of similar too. Have a great weekend. It's been brilliant, guys, and we'll see you next time.